Guys, look at the harbor. Oh my gosh!
The Lahaina fires within Maui is now a popular discussion, and people want to know what the heck's going on. They want to know the truth. Is there actually some government corruption going on? Are the conspiracies true? What's going on? So I did a channel to see what the heck's going on. And so I have notes here that I took while I was channeling. So if you see me reading from something, it's my notes, because I want to make sure I go through this and don't get off topic and go on my tangents. So I made a list of questions that I wanted answered, and a lot of people also want answered. So I'm going to go through the questions, and then I'm going to answer them based off my channel. And then there are some other things that I wanted to add that were apart from the questions. So here we go. So question number 1. How did the fire start? 2. Was it an accident? 3. Were there any hidden agendas, cover-ups, corruption? Was or is there FEMA or Red Cross corruption? Is there government or police corruption involved? Number 4, why was school canceled that day? Or why were the children not in school that day? Number 5, why was the water turned off? Number 6, is the death toll being underreported? These are all questions that people want to know the answer to. So here we go. How did the fire start? From what Spirit told me, there are multiple fires that day that eventually turned into one big one. So there was more than one source for this fire. So the first thing I was shown was a smaller brush fire, which then led to me seeing power lines sparking and catching the dry plantation on fire. I also saw someone that looked like a 55 to 60-year-old man with grayish black hair, kind of like scraggly down to here. And he had like a cul-de-sac, like bald spot on his head. And he kind of looked like a tourist, and he was wearing like this reddish orange kind of peach Hawaiian floral shirt, you know, the ones that tourists like to wear. And he was on the beach and he flicked a cigarette and it was still lit. And boom, the wind caught it, and yeah. And then the winds from the hurricane spread the multiple fires. So that is what Spirit told me on that. By the way, I haven't looked into all of these to see if I was correct, or, you know, if there was any investigations. I also want to say this is all alleged. I forgot to say at the beginning of the video. This is all alleged, and I'll add a disclaimer at the beginning because I obviously forgot. So all of what I'm saying is alleged. Nothing here has been proven as fact yet, I don't think. But anyway, was it an accident? So that's question number 2. So this question is it's got multiple parts to it. The answer is kind of. The intention wasn't there to flood the island with fire initially. However, due to greed, negligence, and laziness, it became what it did. Electric companies were all those things because they refused to make their equipment fireproof, and they didn't take the necessary fire safety precautions, such as trimming tree branches and other vegetation around their power lines and other equipment. So here's the thing. Depending on where you live, right? Pico is a big example here in my area. Pico, when there's overgrown tree branches and power lines, they usually go around and cut them and make sure the power lines are not, touching any debris or any plants or vegetation or what have you. So, depending on the place you live in the city ordinances, I feel like a lot of it has to do with the power companies, and then sometimes some of the city ordinances, the city takes care of it, but it depends on the jurisdiction and whatnot. But I do know that electric companies do take care of that in many cases. All right. So, additionally, due to tourism and money-making potential during the time of colonization and the implementation of businesses, tourist attractions, and other corporations, there were lots of misuse with natural resources such as water and land, which is what made some parts of Lahaina or Maui dry and arid with tall, dry vegetation and a fire hazard. So, water has been redirected to those huge money makers, which is what made those areas super dry to begin with. So there's a lot of variables involved here. So the thing is, a lot of these companies, especially the electric companies, were aware, and that stuff was brought to their attention, and they're like, yeah, we'll do it eventually, blah, 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 blah. And they let it go and they never did anything about it, and now look what happened. So it's like, was it an accident? Is it an accident if you were warned about it and you ignore it and you let it happen? Guys, make your own judgment call on that. So, next question, number 3. Were there any cover-ups or hidden agendas or corruption? Yes. That isn't even like rocket science at this point. At least I feel anyway. So, I was told by Spirit that there's corruption at the state level and the federal level, and they pointed out money laundering, tax fraud, again, all alleged, tax fraud, leisure, fun time while on the clock, government entities playing the blame game, right, for bad decisions and trying to cover up to protect their own asses. There's also this thing called eminent domain. So in other words, and I'll put my, eminent domain, I'll put where I got the definition and the law for that. So, I'm not making it up. But for anyone who doesn't know what eminent domain is or what it includes, so in other words, the government can take private land properties as long as they provide just compensation for fair market value. They can especially do this if there has been a disaster such as natural disasters, so like fires or floods or hazardous materials spills, or if they need the land to build commercial properties, or like if they want to build a highway, whatever, right? They can take that land as long as they compensate the owner for that land, and they can pretty much do that regardless if there is a disaster or not. However, if the land is damaged by, say, a natural disaster such as a fire, the fair market value of that land significantly drops, and that land can be seized at a significantly cheaper price. So even if they don't want the land for, let's say, smart cities, because, there's talk about that. Like, I didn't pull smart cities specifically, that term, up in my channel, but, it doesn't have to be smart cities that they're using that land for to profit off of. Like, if they see a profit potential, they most likely might take it. So, for their own purposes. But so, was or is there FEMA and Red Cross corruption? I was told, allegedly, I was told there's a political or politics game ensuing, which also includes too many rules, stipulations, and regulations instead of doing what's right and what makes sense for those in need. They are more worried about how they will be perceived from those on the outside. They are afraid of doing anything against the higher ups and their bosses. So take that how you will. Was or is there government or police corruption involved? Yes. So I specifically saw on the astral realm threats being made on both sides, on the government and police side. And when I say government, I mean like state and federal, and then police, obviously police personnel. Officers and government personnel were lied to and given commands that endangered more people and were threatened to follow their superiors or go to jail or be punished in some way. Okay? So, who made those calls? I didn't see who. Another question, number 4. So the previous questions, I know there were multiple questions, but they kind of fall under the same theme. So I put them as question number 3. Now we're on question number 4. Why was school canceled that day, or why were the children not in school that day? Why were they home? So Spirit told me that school was canceled that day for those who were attending early. Okay? So school actually started, it was supposed to start the day after. So this happened the day before school was supposed to start. So kids weren't in school because school hadn't technically started. However, there were still extracurricular activities going on that required some students to be there. So like sports and whatnot. So I was told some of those were canceled due to the hurricane and the damage that it caused. So like the power outages and stuff. So technically the school hadn't started its first day yet, but for the extracurricular activities, they were canceled because of hurricane damage. Now I looked up part of this because I was not sure. I'm like, okay. And that was something that could easily be found. So I looked that up before even, when I was writing this, just to make sure, I wasn't crazy. But so I did find the school calendar, and I will put the link down below for that the first day of school was August 9th, and this shit started on the 8th. So that's good validation. Okay. Question number 5. Why was the water turned off? The answer I got from that was pure greed. People were hoarding and redirecting water for their private properties, some businesses too. Yeah. I mean, again, allegedly. Now, number 6, is the death toll being underreported? The answer I got was yes, but for multiple reasons. Many people, including children, are missing. I kept hearing no body, no death. Part of this had to do with uncertainty of how many people were actually dead and relocated or separated from families due to the chaotic evacuation and people trying to outrun the fires, making people dispersed and scattered. However, I fully believe they do have a higher count with confirmed deaths and are not reporting it on purpose. If the death toll increases, then more people will be inclined to question and investigate the disaster, which they're already, investigating and questioning the disaster to begin with. But think about it. I mean, you're not seeing many reports of this on the news, are you? Because I'm fucking not. And yeah, so the more, chaotic and the more like, sinister that this may seem, and I mean, it is sad and it is fucked up, but I'm just saying, like, 100 deaths, and I'm not trying to say, one death is not as bad as 100. They're equally bad, but at the perception of other people, 100 looks better than 1,000. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to say that those 100 people's, lives don't matter at all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, based on perspective and how it looks, 100 is better than 1,000. Okay? Like I said, I'm not trying to say anything, bad about that. I'm just trying to give the perspective of, other people. Anyway, so, yeah. If the death toll increases, more people will be inclined to investigate. And there are things that some people want to remain hidden. So they don't want people poking and prodding, because they're going to find something and they don't want them to find anything. Not to mention, the more deaths, people are going to have to start taking accountability, right? And no one is willing to do that. No one wants to do that and face the repercussions. Trust me. The truth is known one way or another, okay? So it's kind of like the analogy of, if a tree falls but there's no one around to hear it, doesn't make a sound. Well, yeah, because scientifically it does make a sound. And just because people aren't there doesn't mean other things can't hear it. It's kind of like on the spirit side, there are beings that know. They know what happened. And honestly, whether these people are held accountable, if they're not held accountable on the physical end, on this earth realm, on the spiritual, you absolutely best believe they will be held accountable. So now I'm going to get into the other meditation results that I got. So this is including like other information that was brought up that may not align with the questions that we have here. So I do want to add a quick disclaimer for this, for my channeling, because I was getting some roadblocks, and so I channeled in through animals, if that makes sense, and other spirits. So I was getting the perspective of other beings other than people. So their perspective may be different from ours. So please keep that in mind when I describe things. I'm trying to do it from their point of view. But anyway, so animal, nature spirits, and other deities are upset and trying to help heal the land as much as possible due to the repercussions that translated into the other realms. Nature energy is carried through multiple dimensions, even if the physical plants, animals, and other organisms are in our realm. So, yeah. I saw people yelling out for help as they were stuck in the debris, many of which didn't realize they were dead. It was very like zombie kind of esque, horror film like. So these people were maimed, burned, covered in smoke, ash, injuries and stuff, and they almost look zombie like. But then as they're reaching out of the debris and like other things, I see an angel going from one debris pile to another, collecting the souls that were crying out for help. It was very sad. I then saw two birds that were sitting atop a tree branch, and they told me they saw a large beam of light that stretched from the ground up into the sky. Now, I'm not making any assumptions here, okay? Because I know what's going to happen. You're going to have some of these conspiracy people and be like, oh my god, it's a DW. And I'm not saying that at all, okay? Because there is no solid evidence saying that's what happened. There's a picture circulating around the internet, but that picture is old and is from 2018 or 2017, 2018, and someone is using it to say it's that. So I'm just saying, guys, that this is the perspective from the two birds I was looking through, okay? So I'm stating what I saw, and I'm not making any speculations as to what it could be because information came from an animal and I can only go by their perspective. In other words, it could be anything from a lightning strike, a power line on fire, etc. So I just want to make that clear. There are too many things it could be, and without straight up facts of knowing what it could be, I'm not going to make the assumption. Because I don't want to accidentally mislead people and give some people the wrong idea and paranoia and whatnot when there doesn't need to be. Okay? So just want to say that. So I'm not going to tell you what I think it is because I'm seeing it from the point of view of an animal. And like I said, it could be anything. All right. I kept hearing Oprah's name. Now, I think it's common knowledge that she has a property on Maui. So does Jeff Bezos. But I kept hearing her name over and over and over again. And then I heard something referenced as the deal. I don't know what it is per se, and I'm not going to make any assumptions. And guys, again, all of this is alleged because this is a channel. And I'm getting it from different perspectives of like animals and beings and stuff. So I heard something referenced as the deal. I saw large black clouds rolling in. Now that could be, now this one's easier because, you know, there's a bunch of things that could be like the fire smoke and or the hurricane storm. You know what I mean? It's not that there's a bunch. It's just that it's obvious of what it is. And even if I'm wrong of the ones I'm, saying, it ain't gonna hurt anybody. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So, I was given the reference of the firestorm in Japan during World War II. And it was, that the attack when they were bombed, right before the atomic bomb was released. There was a bombing that released a firestorm, and then because of the wind, it actually had a lot more casualties than the atomic bomb. So they gave me this as a reference. And I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, that they're showing me of what it looked like, and it's very comparable to that. And I'm not saying bombs were used at all. I'm just saying that the site of the fire spreading looked like the fire in Japan during that time. That's my guess. Okay? I also heard price gouging, which, when you have natural disasters or anything to that effect, you do know that companies will up their prices to take advantage of those people in need. So that doesn't surprise me. Then I got a view of inside of this fancy building with extremely tall ceilings. The roof looked like glass windows because it was white and bright at the top with beams going across the ceiling in a fancy kind of pattern. It reminded me of how some of the malls have that kind of look to it, especially like in like the food courts or like just like the court where it's like everyone meets. It's like the center, and then you have all the stores around, if that makes sense. But I saw a building like that, don't know what it means. I then saw the inside of a machine of some sort, and I'll show you a picture that I drew, but I don't know what the heck it is or what it could be. But it looks like the head of an LED flashlight, but with hundreds or thousands of multiple types of crystal-like structures or faceted surfaces like a cut gem, right? You know how you have, like, for example, you have jewelry and like gems and you have all the little different facets. That's what it kind of looked like. It was clear or white, but then, it had intricate metal and mirror-like structures connected to one another, and it looked like the purpose was to refract or bounce light off of it, but I'm not sure what it's for. The mirror parts look like they are used to bounce something, but I don't know what. And I'll show you the picture I drew in my notes if you can see it. That's what I drew. It honestly looks like Sailor Moon's like jewel thing. you know. But yeah. Animals told me that they felt staticky air, friction in the air, and were confused by it. It felt weird, and it was something that they noted. They also felt that there was either something similar to infrared technology, or was that exact type of technology. And I remember them telling me that they were sensitive, especially like the insects and spiders were bothered by it. They don't know what it was. I then personally saw an energy grid, kind of like when I see some types of portals, an energy dissonance, except the animals saw it too, which animals can see, into the other realms and whatnot. But it was grid-like, and it kind of reminded me of like the grid pattern I saw at the Brennan Lodge, but it was red at the Brennan Lodge, and it was very heavy and thick energetically. And yeah. But I will say this. There was confirmed green laser beam sightings over Hawaii back in February 2023. I'll put a picture somewhere here in the video. So that was confirmed. So, okay. And people were saying it wasn't from our government. It was allegedly from a Chinese satellite. If you want to believe that, go for it. I mean, it's possible. Then I kept hearing a high-pitched frequency. Animals told me they could hear it, but the people could not. And I am not kidding you when I say during this entire, channel, I heard the high-pitched frequency, and it wasn't like a ringing in my ear at all. I heard it in my head and my ears, and it was just I'm hearing it now too. It just sounds like particles moving. It's so weird, and I don't know how to else to describe it. It's just weird. But anyway, and then this last bit. So I met a deity, a nature deity that looked like Te Fiti, the character from Moana. I've never seen that movie, but I see a lot of images of this nature goddess character in the movie, but it looked like her. However, she gave a grandmother vibe, and she did have a humanoid body structure and facial features, but she looked more like an old woman. But I'm not sure of her name, but she was covered in greenery, plants, flowers, etc. She was beautiful and had a humanoid body and facial structure, like I said. And I asked her what will happen to the spirits that resided on the land that was destroyed. And she told me that her and her other deities are working together to heal those that have been affected, including the natives that are still alive. So they are working on healing animals, humans, and other spirits that are both alive and on the other realms. She told me that the natives of Maui and Hawaii, Hawaii in general, are very special in the way that they still carry ancient and hidden spiritual knowledge that most people aren't aware of. And, medicinal knowledge and, herbs and stuff. They know a lot when it comes to those types of things. And it's knowledge the government and other corporations wouldn't want the general public to know about. And so the people are very close to these types of deities and have a special relationship with them. And these deities love their people and are doing their best to take care of them. Interesting how my there we go. Interesting how that went out of focus. But anyway, so the deity wanted me to make sure to convey that, they know of the tragedy that's going on, and they're doing their best to help their people, the natives of the island. And they just want them to know that keep praying, keep doing your rituals that you had been doing previously. They hear their calls or your calls, and just know that they're working on healing everybody and everything. So, keep that in mind. So if anyone in Hawaii or Maui are watching, that's what the nature deity wanted me to convey to you, that, you know, they appreciate you, they love you, and they are working on taking care of you. And those that have been lost, they are helping those souls heal, along with the angels as well. They're helping them heal, and that those people are in a good place right now, the deceased. So I really wanted to convey that and let everybody know. But yeah, that is the end of pretty much what I got from the channeling I did for the Lahaina fires in Maui. And guys, what do you think? Did you guys get any psychic feedback, or do you know anything? Like, I don't know. What is your take on the whole situation? So let me know down below. Thank you guys for watching. Hope everybody is safe. I know the weather around the United States, no matter what state you're in, is kind of rough right now, whether you're in severe heat, severe weather, flooding, what have you. Hopefully everyone is safe. Please take care, everybody, and peace out.